the zoo type of tempo priest, so it could be for his favor. Let's go into game number 1 and see how Shaman and this Druid deck is going to go against each other. Traditionally, the Shaman can out-tempo on the board against what Ramp Druid provides, and Fake, if he can get a good enough start, will be in a nice spot, but Neirea, I mean, he also has the ability to outlast the Shaman deck if there isn't very good value from Fake's end.
Yeah, for sure. And, his hand is weird. He is going to be relying a lot on his hero power here to make use of those Flame Totems. He does pick up a Harvest Golem, which is a meaning he can actually play. As we see, a very early wild growth for Neirea yet again.
Yeah, that seems to be his go-to opening hand card, right? I think we've seen Innervate or Wild Growth in every single game he's played Druid, except for 1 or 2, which is just the most important aspect, and why you mulligan a lot of cards that you might feel like are key, because you need to fix your mana curve, considering how heavy your deck is and wonky on certain points. Like, there's a lot of overloaded on 5 mana cards usually for this deck, and so Innervate and Wild Growth are the key combinations to way that you can have a smooth turns 3 to 7.
Yeah, I mean, all your other cards are very replaceable. They basically do the same thing. You don't care if you're playing a big 7-mana minion or another big 7-mana minion, whereas Wild Growth and Innervate are the only cards that you actually want in the early game. So it makes sense to mulligan away everything else just to try to get those cards.
All right, now Fake introduced with an interesting choice of trying to remove what's on board. I think when you see Wild Growth, you definitely should deduce that it's a Ramp Druid. I don't think aggressive Druids run Wild Growth anymore. That was kind of a flavor choice by a lot of token Druids as a way to get synergy off of cards like Violet Teacher. But for the most part, decks have streamlined a lot. So as much as you might want to try to seize control of the board with like Earthshock, I think it's better just to play the Harvest Golem.
Yeah, if you play the Earthshock there, you get super vulnerable to Ancient of War. So you really don't want to just peel it off on what is probably your opponent's worst minion.
I wonder.
All right, Fake gets Undertaker. Kind of sad that he didn't draw that until just now, as it would have been great to have 2/2/3s, and he could have even used Rockbiter to trade and push through, but just has to live with it.
Yeah, it does eat that taunt totem again, which is not gonna be super helpful, but I guess none of the totems would have been. Yeah, what do you do now? Do you just trade Rockbiter and half your Golem for his Taskmaster? Yeah, it looks like he's gonna do it.
In a very weird way, sometimes the taunt totem, as a Shaman player, I don't know if you ever go through this, but sometimes you just want them to, when you have Flame Tongues in hand, you want them to ignore your totem. Like, if you roll a healing totem, it seems innocuous enough that your opponent might leave it alone, right? So you're hoping that he just ignores it. Versus taunt totem's like, oh, he guaranteed kills my totem now because he has to go through it now. So.
Yeah, definitely. Though I think players have been, the more I play, the more I realize that people have been starting to kill your totems over and over.
Right.
Which is, I guess, why some people played Bloodlust before in Shaman and no one does anymore, because you just know that your totems are going to get attacked. And Shaman has a lot of ways to make use of the bodies that are, very innocuous, and people just don't care as much about the 2 damage, just want to kill your totems. But yeah, what you're saying is definitely right.
All right, well, Fake doesn't have a very clear play. It's unfortunate he hasn't picked up some of his his earlier cards that have impact, like Gnomish Inventor, Azure Drake, so that he can get draws and fill up the board. He has to kind of just get value based off what it is, but these Shield Masters and mid-range creatures are doing a good job just throwing a big wrench into the plans of Shaman.
Yeah, it's not looking great. And, we know both hands are actually pretty stacked. He has Fire Elemental and Alakir. His opponent has Ancient of War and Sylvanas. Decides to play both totems. Okay. Yeah, now his opponent wants to finish off a totem of hero power. At least he gets the 2/1 Golem in return. Ooh, or not.
Yeah. Removing these totems seem to be a good course of action, because now all of a sudden, excuse me, now all of a sudden it's going to be really difficult to kind of pick up a lot of trades with a strong board. Defender of Argus becomes his only other adjacent minion buffer here, so it seems like Neirea is in a pretty good spot just to remove, And from here, Fake's just going to be playing a little bit at a time, and Neirea can finally keep up with the pace of Shaman.
Yeah, definitely. And, now his 2 Flame Tongue Titans are gone, so that's, something that Neirea doesn't have to worry about. Yeah, just gonna play a 5/10, and there's no hacks from Fake. So he's probably gonna have to Warshock and trade his Elemental.
That's right. So I'm a little embarrassed.
Unless he rolls
'cause
Spell Power Totem.
Oh yeah, that's right. You can get the extra damage in there. Oh, he gets Spell Power Totem, and that allows him to push through effectively.
Yeah, that's huge for him. This lets him maintain board advantage.
Yep. I made out with a Sludge Belcher earlier, Paulo. I'm sorry. Excuse my manners. Neirea, by the way, he has a response to it, but he didn't have something as clean as Sylvanas. Like, swipe plus removal is not what you want to do. So I think playing Sylvanas is okay. You just really hope your opponent doesn't have Hex. But even then, that's 1 Hex out of the way for something like Ancient of War.
Yeah, which he does have. He picked up his second one. So, and Alakir cannot come down this turn because of the overload. So what's the play here?
I wonder.
Probably start with Gnomish Inventor.
Yeah, Gnomish Inventor to Hex, I believe.
It is a minion that could get stolen, but you'd rather you get stolen than your Harvest Golem anyway, so...
Yeah, I guess do you trade and try to go for Harvest Golem into the Sylvanas, so that way it takes one of your other smaller creatures?
Now that you hit the Taunt Totem, you could just try to ignore the Sylvanas and go for the face here. Hope your opponent has to attack into it. But yeah, the other possibility is just hoping he doesn't steal a Fire Elemental.
Okay, that's right. He does have Alakir in the Rockbiter now, so that's 12 damage. And if nothing changes on the state of the board, that's actually lethal damage, but there's so many taunts that usually what Druids can do. It's not as easy as you'd think. Neirea picks up also the Sludge Belcher, another really effective card to make sure that cards like Wind Fury are slowed down by a significant margin.
Yeah, Neirea can finish off the Taunt Totem with his Hero Power and still play as Ledge Belcher because of Innervate.
Wow, and he steals the Harvest Golem too by doing so.
Yeah. So tables have, turned dramatically here.
Oh my goodness, what happened to the board? I thought you had something Fake, but now it's completely dissected.
Yeah, now, he has it all like your Rock Picker combo, but how much does that even do at this point? Can burst the face and, could kill his opponent's 2 minions and still got a small golem for his troubles. And can actually finish off your Alakir next turn if you do that. So probably... Well, you can't even clear his minions, sorry.
No, he can't, and
Yeah.
it's also a losing battle to try to wait. The longer you wait, the more threats are going to come out.
Yeah, I think what he has to do is probably Alakir, use the Rock Bitter and kill his Ledge Belcher and the token that comes with that. And he at least pseudo guarantees his Alakir is not going to die next turn because his opponent will only have access to 3 damage and it will be a 4 toughness guy. But yeah, not looking fantastic here.
That would be insane, because then this creature, this Sludge Belcher, effectively got 10 health. It's kind of like another Ancient of War in a sense, just in terms of the defensiveness value of it. But I don't see any other choice. You have to have the strongest creature here, and hope that your opponent only has situational cards like Innervates and nothing else.
Which is pretty far from reality here. It picks up yet another way to deal with Alakir.
Yeah, an immediate snipe, and I think that's a stronger play rather than Ancient of Lore, because again, you don't want him to get hexed and get momentum. So
yeah, for sure.
Neirea takes a commanding lead, and doesn't matter that Fake's health is so high, because now he's just going to be drawing off the top, and once it's kind of like similar to Paladin, you don't have too many draw mechanics built into Shaman. It's going to be kind of difficult to climb out of here.
Yeah, life really doesn't matter. This Druid deck couldn't care less where your opponent's at. I think this deck uses Force of Nature more as a way to either clear the board or to just present another threat to your opponent, but you don't really need it to kill as much as the other Druid deck does. Well, he did pick up the spell power to it, so he could try for, one Lightning Storm to hope that he clears the board, which I think he'll have to do. But
Cross your fingers. Ugh.
uh,
Doesn't. Rolls low on both. Now, one didn't matter, but on the one that did matter, seems like he got a big giant whiff. Now, Neirea can start putting out huge threats like his Ancient of War. And he has still some of the best yet to come. He's got Scenarius. Oh my god, this is amazing. He's playing it in an uproot. That's how much swag this guy feels right now because he just doesn't feel contested whatsoever.
yeah, I mean, that will backfire now. But yeah,
It will backfire, but I love it. It's a fun play because I think he just recognizes his opponent had no way to deal with anything on the board. He had to Lightning Storm a 2-1 and a 2-4, so he just went for it.
yeah, his opponent could have a Black Knight as well, which this does play around.
Damn. The dream was so real. And he Black Knights a 0-1. This is amazing. Like, and I really like to see so far ahead. His opponent used already his big win condition for Alakir, and he's left with Doomhammer as well as maybe like a potential secret tech card like Bloodlust, but he needs a board to do that. So he's in such a firm control. He realizes his opponent is going to be running out of answers or ways to kill.
That's a turn. Yeah, unfortunately cannot play both because of Overload here, but does pick up what's probably his best card to draw at this point, which is Azure Drake, which is just a significant minion that draws you something else.
Yeah. Body is pretty important.
Yeah, he's gonna be outmatched though as soon as Neirea draws Ancient of Lore, for example, which is his own version of Azure Drake and much more powerful.
Super Azure Drake.
Ooh, does he have to wear Shock here? I think he does. If he plays low tap, he just exposes it to the 4/1 attacking plus 0 power.
Yeah, I don't think you're left with a choice. Lotheb would just get his own Lotheb would get completely shut down, and Neirea's gotten so much extra health because of his constant hero powering and the lack of pressure.
Yeah, I mean, Neirea does have those bad cards in his deck still, which are Innervate and Wall Growth. Not as bad because just cycles here, but
All right. I guess this is the downside of playing a Harrison over like a second Azure Drake or something else, maybe a Sludge Belcher, kind of like what Brian Kibler did.
yeah, definitely not great for this matchup. And he banned Paladin too.
Well, that's true. Well, it's more of that he's not afraid of Hunter. And Shaman is also Fake's most comfortable class, by the way. He's said that he's played thousands of games with Shaman over the past couple of months. It was like his main class. So to lose your comfort class this early definitely is not what you want. Also funny that Neirea draws Wild Growth, but he can't even draw a card because next the empty mana crystal that he would gain will also cost 5.
Oh, I didn't know that. Well, it is setting up
it
for
costs 5 excess mana.
setting up for a good turn next turn where he's gonna draw 2 cards.
Yeah, Gadget and Auctioneer is the next card, right? Continue to draw.
Hey, so this
I
doesn't
think
want to get a
Neirea,
spell power token.
Yeah, I don't think there's really that big of a threat with spell power. He's already used double Lightning Storm, double Lightning Bolts, and not really much left other than... He really also used an Earth Shock, so I don't think there's really much left worth keeping. Neirea hit like a series of pretty bad draws, honestly. He got Innervate, he got Wild Growth, he got Wrath, and he hasn't really hit any of his bigger minions. Finally, he got Ancient of Lore. This is where he starts opening up the game.
Yeah.
But first, I guess you draw, see what you get with off the excess mana.
The thing is that in Neirea's deck, all the cards are either very bad or very good, whereas the Shaman's cards are all kind of mediocre. So it's possible that he hits a slump where he just draws bad card after bad cards and they don't do anything. But as soon as he draws some of the good ones, they're completely gonna outclass whatever Fake can do.
Well, Well, I think he's finally gotten. The good news is I think he's gotten through most of the bad cards, so to speak. The quality of hand that he has are pretty good. He's got removal. He's got double taunters next turn. And he's got really effective ways to sit on the board. And most likely the Ancient of War will trade in. Fake is still left top decking, but he's playing small threats little by little. The good news is that Spell Power Swipe already has been taken out of the equation because Thanos has been taken off, as well as Swipe.
Yeah, but so are the two Flame Totems, so even if he does get a bunch of minions in play, they're not nearly as dangerous as they could have been.
Yeah, also true.
Yeah, and Fake was really hoping for a Taunt Totem there to protect his Fire Elemental, which wouldn't happen. Oh, no, he's not even attacking a Fire Elemental, okay.
Wow, so a Hex this late into the game is kind of unlucky for Fake. The fact that Hex is one of your best tempo swings in the early game to try to take out minions and establish a board, but he drew it and as closer to his 20th card as opposed to his top 10.
Yeah, I mean, Hex is good because it costs 3, which lets you play it and still do something in the early game. But when you have 10 mana and nothing else to do, that's not really an advantage.
Also, what do you Hex?
Probably the Sludge Belcher. You know, you're
Yeah, I
gonna
guess
get
'cause
the Taunt
the-
Totem now. So that's gonna stop the hero power from attacking the Fire Elemental and finishing it off. Unless he also commits the 5/5 to kill the Taunt Totem. So I guess he would have to do that regardless, but...
That's true. I think you do kill off the 1/2 with the Hex, and then the Fire Elemental can heal up to a 6/2 anyways, because of the healing totem.
Oh yeah, right.
So that'd be your best shot.
I think so too, yeah.
And then Fire Elemental is honestly still alive, and you still have like cards like Doomhammer, so there are ways for you to kind of actually win this game still, despite that Neirea's been comfortably ahead for a while.
Yeah, he
But
does
Force
have
of
that
Nature
keeper.
now destroys him. Oh, never mind. Savage Roar and Force of Nature will destroy him. And that game has finally been over as Neirea has pretty much gone through most of his deck. And Fake will lose his Shaman here.
Yeah, pretty unfortunate for Fake. Like, you know what? What will probably be his best deck is already gone in this best of 7. So has to power through his other decks that he might not be as...
Can Handlock defeat the Druid deck? Absolutely. But there's also ways for this Druid to just line up the perfect answers. BGH against a Giant, Keeper of the Grove against the Twilight Drake. It all depends on how Neirea reads what his opponent's doing and evaluating his opening hand, which seems to be excellent if it was a combination of the cards and his opponent was playing Zoo.
Yeah, I think he's just going to keep Wild Growth here. And, you know, the Siphon Soul could be capped by Fake. When you're playing Handlock, you're not particularly looking for anything. You know, you want those Mountain Giants and you want those Drakes, but that's by turn 4. So I think it's reasonable to keep her one Siphon Soul against a deck you know has a lot of expensive minions. But apparently he just doesn't want it. And well, is Neirea going to keep his entire hand? I would be very surprised.
I think it's because he doesn't want to underestimate his opponent having Zoo. And, you know, the Zoo deck can give Druid a really hard time if you just get off to a really good start because it's too slow to get all your taunters up. And just in the off case it's not, he also can cycle through with cards like Wrath and Thalnos, so maybe he can draw into it. As for the Handlock player, as much as Siphon Soul is a great card, you want your 4 drops. That's just like the highest priority for sure. The Twilight Drakes and the Mountain Giants. And he's got it. So this is really good start for Fake, assuming his opponent doesn't have Keeper of the Grove. And if he doesn't, then it's going to be lights out because Druid really can't deal with cards like this Twilight Drake without that silence.
Yeah, well. Does find 2 Drakes, so it's pretty set for plays here for the next couple of turns. Drakes, Sludge Belchers.
Oh my. Second Wild Growth. So I guess Neirea's start has been pretty good so far, other than just having to direct answers to line up with threats. He's got the second best alternative, which is get really far ahead on the future turns with mana.
Yeah, now he just has to draw stuff to use that all the mana with, but he does have an Ancient of War to kind of guarantee that. So
Man.
what's Fake gonna do here? I imagine he's just gonna play a Drake.
Yeah, you play the Drake. The discussion, I mean, I guess you could play Senjin if you feel like your opponent might have Keeper of the Grove, and then kind of like disarm your opponent's board a little bit. So that way, if he does have Keeper of the Grove, he can't just kill the Twilight Drake. So Fake is being really conservative.
Yeah, interesting. You know, he does open it up to the potential of it getting a swipe or a Wrath, but you know, Neirea, if Neirea does that, then he either rafts and spends his coin to play Sledge Belcher, or just rafts and doesn't do anything else. Yeah, playing Sunwalker seems like the better alternative here.
This is starting to develop into like an interesting series. Now that Fake chose not to be a little bit more aggressive on the board with Twilight Drake, he's now going to be facing a scenario where he's playing against stronger minions every turn, which is not the position that Handlock's used to. They're usually enforcing their stronger minions and using like Hellfire as a way to have trade plus a clear. So this is a little of an uncomfortable / unusual situation for him.
Yeah, you know, he could play Faceless Manipulator here to copy that Sunwalker, but just to save that maybe for a potential combo, or he just knows that this matchup has a lot of very big minions, and since he has a fine replacement in his Ledge Belcher, just where's going with that?
Yeah, I
And
wonder.
Neirea has a lot of options here.
Yeah, removal with swipe seems to be like an easy clear. And you can even rat to draw a card.
Yeah, which is probably preferable.
That was a really sick turn. Now you still have a 4/5. The Divine Shield was able to kill off the Senjin. And you're still able to keep up on draws. You even have Ancient of Lore to continue, and hopefully it baits out like a Siphon Soul. Like, to be this far ahead on board, despite the fact that your opponent had double Twilight Drake in their opening hand, is very good for the Druid.
Yeah, for sure. No, he does get to play a Mountain Giant and taunt it up now if he wants to. Which might be what he has to go for. Or he could just play the Ancient Watcher and taunt it up next turn.
Right.
But he's gonna take a lot of damage here. I guess he's not
Then-
as concerned about his life total
Yeah.
because it's not a fast trade version. So it's
I was
possible that
thinking,
Neirea... Oh, sorry.
Oh, no. Sorry, finish your thought.
It's possible that Neirea wants to kill that Mountain Giant anyway. You know, in which case you'd be glad you didn't waste your taunt.
Yeah, it's kind of like this one situation where if you don't kill off this Mountain Giant, oftentimes, your opponent can just faceless it because it's like, well, we can't deal with two giants. And so sometimes you even see the scenario where if they realize they're going to be trading, they attack into the giant and leave it as like an 8/4 or an 8/3. So I think that's just a nice kind of heads-up play from Fake, realizing he could save his Sun Fury Protector and get better usage out of it, like on Twilight Drake instead. Also, not to mention that Black Knight could have blown you out like crazy. If your opponent had Black Knight and you lost the giant, would have been super devastating.
Yeah, no, that's definitely right. I like his play more and more I think of it. You know, I thought maybe his life total was getting dangerously low and he would have to protect it, but against this particular deck, again, life total is not really your concern most of the time. So better to just save your taunt. Yeah, your point about the faces is really good. Because if your opponent ignores your giant, then your next turn is going to be, you know, taunt both your minions and copy taunted giant. So you probably never be able to get through again.
Yeah, you know, not too long ago, as I think Twilight Drake and playing the Taunter is like the play here. Although you can choose to style your... I think if you play around Black Knight, that's much better than putting a big X on your Twilight Drake. Not to mention that silencing with the Keeper of the Grove on your Twilight Drake is a lot less powerful because you can't directly trade into it. So I think taunting the Ancient Watcher is better. But to kind of finish my point that I was starting, a couple months ago, before... Like when Miracle was really dominant and Handlock was one of the ladder decks used to counter it, some people were experimenting with like double Faceless. Because then if you give up your Faceless and you have one copy to copy a giant, then you lose your combo potential. So some people ran two, so that way you had the opportunity to copy your giant and then be able to use a second Faceless for like burst damage. But then people realized that Sludge Belcher is like the perfect slot for 5 anyway, so you don't need to run double Faceless anymore. Ledge Belcher's so good, man.
Yeah, it is very good. Yeah, I think, when I play Handlock, I find myself copying minions with Faceless a lot more than I find myself using it for the combo. I think I would still play Faceless even if I didn't have Leroy in my deck. I think it's just a good card in that deck. And not a lot of decks, I mean, we've seen it in, other warrior decks that don't necessarily have any way to combo it just as a 5-mana copy a minion.
That might be the case when Leroy gets nerfed. If Handlock feels Leroy's too expensive, maybe just put another Faceless in, and I don't know.
Yeah.
Or maybe another Charger, right? Some people just go more YOLO, Arcane Golem,
Arcane
double
Golem.
power, and then 24 damage.
Yeah. Now, I always wonder if you actually need that damage, or if those Arcane Golems were just big minions like Ragnar's and Neirea, if that wouldn't just get the job done anyway.
Sure. I can definitely
But
understand that.
Arcane Golem definitely a lot of burst, more than you currently have. You have 2 power overwhelmings.
God, there was this one deck that Colento played where all his plan was to use Chargers, Faceless, and Power Overwhelming. That was his. He had Bluegill Warrior, which is the 2/1 Charger. He had Arcane Golem. I think he had Wolf Rider, so he can just put out double Power Overwhelming and just do crazy burst damage every time. And the objective was to heal and life tap every single opportunity he could. And he got #1 legend with it. I forgot to mention that.
Ooh, which season was that?
That was like 3 seasons ago. That was when people were still just kind of messing around, and Miracle still wasn't. I think it still wasn't as dominant as it was before. Neirea, by the way, kind of has to deal with double Twilight Drake, and he doesn't have the Keeper of the Grove. But this is where like a board, I think Sylvanas is actually really strong. But in the back of his mind, he also has to worry about combo potential from his opponent. So I think setting up a taunt is also a priority here.
Yeah, it would be hard for his opponent to burst him down with the combo. It is, yeah, especially since he doesn't have 10 mana. So you probably want to start worrying about it next turn. So what do you do now if you're fake? You can do Faceless something. You could Arabic out something. You could just play Alexstrasza.
Yeah, I mean, Alexstrasza is just a stronger version of this Faceless Manipulator. Are you afraid of dying?
Yeah, I mean, your opponent could have the combo.
Right. He just showed Savage Warforged nature the previous game.
But I don't know if you can stop it. I mean, you could silence this Ledge Belcher and attack the 5/1. Like, you copy this Ledge Belcher before that, then you silence it, then you attack the 4/1. 5/1, sorry. And that probably needs to survive the combo, but... Is that a good way to spend your resources?
I wonder.
Well, Iron Beak Owl was kind of sitting here waiting anyways. I feel like that might be a better use. Yeah, it's definitely an interesting play. I think you can explore it. I think Alexstrasza is just a little too optimistic. So, the more I evaluate it, I mean, Hellfire doesn't really accomplish too much because it costs way too much mana this turn, so I think you're right.
Ooh, okay, not using the Owl. So he's gonna lad the 5/1, attack into the 3/5 here. It's probably just saving it for Sylvanas and Ancient War, both of which are in his opponent's hand. Neirea's hand is stacked here. Yeah, what I like about this Druid deck is that, in decks such as sometimes Handlock and Hyped's Mage deck and sometimes Paladin Warrior, you get to a point where your hand is all legendaries, and you can only cast one of them a turn because they cost so much. But this Druid deck can sometimes cast 2 a turn with Innervate. So I think that's, it actually manages to use Innervate in a late game, unlike the other Druid decks. I think that's pretty cool.
That's right, and then even Faceless Manipulator gave you a lot of traction to do cool stuff with 7 drops, like double Ancient of War on 10 mana. Well, effectively 12 mana.
Yeah. Definitely relevant.
Alright, well, Neirea is going to use this opportunity to set up some strong minion, but I think he's also in the back of his mind playing around Shadow Flame and making sure that he doesn't overextend. So as much as it might feel tempting, wow, he's just going for a trade. It might feel tempting to play like something really strong like Ancient of War. He wants to make sure that he has an opportunity to bait out removal before he overextends and gets everything wiped.
Yeah, he does have, pretty good backup in his hand. Yeah, what does Fake do here? Yeah, it does. The hero powers. He cannot play Alexstrasza. But if he just plays Alexstrasza, his opponent can just kill it.
All right. Well, he taps for a Mortal Coil.
Okay. Mordecai's that guy first, even though he might Hellfire this turn anyway, just because he wants to cycle it for a card and see what he draws. And he's probably gonna Hellfire here.
I would have to imagine so. It sets up sort of Molten Giants to be played next turn anyways.
Yeah, and it can't really afford to take 5, and Hellfire is not even very good against this particular Druid deck. So it's not gonna get better than that.
Also a very valid point. I mean, of course, you're afraid of the combo, but I think your opponent showed that if he had it last turn, most likely he'd be doing something with it. So, yeah, at this stage, you just kind of continue to press with what you have. Now, here's an interesting question. Do you attack and lower his health? And Neirea already answered it. He says no. And I think it's obviously it's the right choice on our end, but some people always flirt with the line of danger, right? Like, oh, I'll lower him to here and maybe like 5 mana cost Molten Giants, but he wants to keep it as high as possible.
Yeah. But can he kill his opponent in 1 turn? That's not next turn, right? Even if he plays an Arias and pumps his guys, that's not gonna be enough. You can only do 13 because zero power.
Ooh. Oh
Ooh,
man,
big game
Neirea draws the
here.
perfect card here. So, not Sylvanas. He has a BGH to answer the Giant. Now he can keep that and say, well, if he has Molten Giant, this is my insurance to make sure I push through with damage, and then play another card.
Yeah, he could attack into the Alexstrasza and play Zanarias.
I have no time for
I think he was worried about Giant into Shadow Flame, which his opponent can only cast if he deals in 1 damage.
That is also a good point. And that's why keeping him at 17 is really important just to hold here. So he can't play this Molten Giant Shadow Flame.
And next turn, he can actually deal 17 now. So really interesting sequence of plays by Neirea that are really paying out.
Yeah, being very careful. Now, Mountain Giant Shadow Flame is still viable considering his opponent has 7 cards in hand, but it's just limiting your opponent's range of capabilities. Leroy Shadow Flame is also the possibility here, and it looks like he's going to go for it, but you're happy to see that as Druid. He loses a lot of the burst, and you do lose your board, but that's why you also have just a lot of ways to reload, like Cenarius, your Ancient of War.
Yeah, man, this was a couple months ago. I would expect people to not have any more Shadow Flames, but nowadays it seems like the normal is 1 Hellfire, 2 Shadow Flames. So, still has to watch out for that.
Okay.
I was hoping we'd get to see a so far myself so I can play Molten Giants and Shadow Flame them, but
No. Strifco told me about one time he did that, and he ended up discarding the Taunt Giver. Like, he had both Molten Giants and a Taunt Giver, and then he had like 5 other cards in hand. Like, it was like a full 10 hand. But then he soul-fired himself, and then he lost his Defender of Argus or Sun Fury Protector, which was really sad.
yeah, so there's no second Shadow Flame here for Fake. And this is a board that is pretty hard to answer individually. He could go Siphon so Ancient Taskmaster, but also play 2 Molten Giants or 1 in a Taskmaster.
I think you don't want to play just Molten Giant without a Taunter, because then just
very
a
easily
Savage
die.
Roar, just like 1 Savage Roar ends up killing you. He's going to Soulfire one of the 2/2s, and he loses Senjin, thankfully not his Defender of Argus, but now he doesn't have a Taunt Giver for the second Molten Giant. So it's going to have to get a lot of work done with this 1 Taunter.
So why do you think he didn't play that guy first? Before Soulfiring? You think he values his other cards more? He knew he had a play for 5 mana anyway, regardless of what he discarded. But playing a 3/5 taunt and giving taunts for 9 are very different. And he had to have preferred one over the other. He could have just played it before so far.
Maybe he wanted to have a higher chance of saving a specific card like Siphon Soul.
Yeah, and Molten Giant. It's
Right.
possible.
So he
Interesting play.
wanted more cards to discard potentially, rather than having a lower chance or a higher chance to discard one of these really important cards. It's a good
Yeah,
question,
so
though.
far, it's a very interesting card. You know, there are a lot of different ways you can play with it.
It's yeah, it's very interesting when it comes down to percentages and taking a chance. It's not interesting if you're the handlock player and you always seem to discard second Soulfire or Jiraxis with it. All right.
And
Well,
draws kind of a blank here.
you know, Neirea's still really hesitant to push in for damage. He didn't even use this one slime token to push. He saw a Molten Giant, and he says, I'm still not even lowering your health.
Yeah, but at this point, with his opponent at 10 mana and 14 life, like, are you really preventing him from playing something by not attacking?
Well,
I feel
mean,
like
he's...
they're. Where you going?
Oh, I mean, you bring up an interesting question. Just that you just don't want to give him free Molten Giants effectively without a game plan to back it up. His game plan is right now just play minions. If a giant comes out and he's able to remove really easy, like with the rest of his mana with Siphon Souls, then he might be in trouble.
Yeah, but at this point, isn't 4 and 3 the exact same thing? Like, at least based on Fake's hand, it really is.
Yeah, that's true. But then if you have like Molten Giant and then like Sludge Belcher and like another Taunt Giver or some other way to combo it, then you're just giving him more flexibility. You can't really necessarily read if he has the exact cards. Like obviously if he knew his hand, then probably he'd push in for that one damage because it's inconsequential. But I think overall it's a better and safe play, I'd have to say.
Okay. Yeah, wall of taunts from both players.
Yeah, but Ironbeak Owl on the Ancient of War is pretty good. Just to disable
Or Siphon
it.
Soul.
Or oh, that's right. Forgot about the Siphon Soul.
So can he afford to draw cards here? He's gonna clear the board. And he's gonna be at 15 life. I think he can. You know, he draws a card and... But it's not gonna clear the board. Yeah, he is clearing the board, yeah.
How many cards are remaining in each player's deck, by the way? This has gone on pretty significantly long. Ooh, Mountain Giant. That's another card that you can also play with, but you have to give up the Siphon Soul plan. But next turn you can still play Mountain Giant. You're worried about Mountain Giant if and playing other cards this late in the game if it's going to cost too much, but he'll still be able to play for 8 mana the following turn.
Yeah, I think I like Siphon Soul including the board. You know, he's gotta be worried about his life total here. Like, just not dying to the combo and, you know, getting rid of all those minions means it's way less likely to happen. Even if, you know, a Savage Roar would just clear his board, it's much better to hit his minions right now. Making his giant more expensive, but wins the 2-1 body.
Yeah, because he has Power Overwhelming, and if he assumes his opponent can't deal with it, then he actually has the lethal on board, I believe. But the Force of Nature comes out right here, and now Neirea is going to try to go for the board clear because he recognizes, well, it's really important to take away this giant. And now Fake will have the opportunity to play just a Mountain Giant on board, and part of the combo has been used, so it's good news for a handlock player.
Yeah, and Neirea only has one Force of Nature. Of course, Fake doesn't know that, but that's kind of the normal with those ramp decks. It's not very common to see a Age-Rate ramp deck with 2 parts of the combo.
Wow. Do you life tap here and play Giant for 8 mana?
You go to 11, which is effectively 8. Here the question is, two relevant things here. You know, how much is the 2 life gonna matter? And how much do you think you need an extra card? Because you're winning here, but this could all change. I don't know how many cards he has in his deck, but if fatigue is not a concern, then I would imagine he does use it.
Well, I assume that this is his only Mountain Giant left, because I think he had another one earlier in the game. So it's not like he's tapping for another threat. What other cards is he looking for? Second Shadow Flame, perhaps?
Yeah, I guess. He doesn't have another Siphon Soul, and yeah, he doesn't have to use it. It's possible he's just not looking for anything.
Yeah, I mean, Neirea picks up, by the way, he picks up his Keeper of the Groves this late in the game when both Twilight Drakes have been exhausted. So to be in the bottom 8 cards in his deck, he's been doing pretty good dealing with the threats regardless of it. Oh my, Sludge Belcher is a very important card. You can silence with the Ironbeak Owl, and then put up a Sludge Belcher as a defense measure, and then heal
stack your opponent?
his Mountain Giant.
You could also just attack your opponent.
Possibilities.
That would leave you more vulnerable to things such as, another part of the combo. But almost guarantee a win next turn.
If you silence a push for damage, your opponent still has a combination of cards that could kill you. And it's starting to get to the really thin parts of his deck. His opponent only has 4 cards left, so it's very likely that he might have Keeper of the Grove and Savage Roar. You silence the Sludge Belcher, and then you push for the extra bonus damage. I think you have to clear. I think it's going to come down... Like, your opponent's not at a high enough health where Fatigue will start pressuring you too much. I think if you just get 2 shots with this Giant plus Power Overwhelming, you're going to win. So
Yeah. Oh,
I think the
he didn't use
clear
his-
is the thing to do
Yeah,
here.
yeah. He didn't use his Roar, right? He only used the Force of Nature.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I would attack the 5/5 here then. You're in such a good position that you don't care about killing them too quickly, so you don't want to open up the possibility that you just lose. Which he did now.
Ooh.
Didn't hurt him, but I agree with your play here.
Okay, well, I don't see a way for Neirea to get out of the situation. He doesn't have a Taunt Giver, and he gets Harvest Golem, possibly the worst card here other than Innervate, because of how weak it is in the late game. So, Neirea might be able to kill off and not be dead on board. No, I think he is dead on board, no matter how he kind of cuts it here. There's no way to effectively clear.
Yeah, he can't even kill the 8/8.
All right, so it looks like Fake will even up the series, and it was a kind of a nail biter here. There's only a couple of cards left, and Neirea, his Savage Roar is one of the final 2 cards, and there's no way for him to kill him, so he is going to concede, and Fake is going to even up the series with Handlock. Now, in a very important win, because the Handlock we were kind of saying is favored against the Druid. That's what we were expecting to happen, and if he was losing there, he would have been in a really terrible spot.
Yeah, and Fate had to see this coming, the Hunter deck here, and this is Handlock's worst matchup. Because your whole game...
But I feel like Neirea's Hunter is just pretty strong. It's very cookie cutter. It just has like the cards that are big threats. You've got like the Mad Scientist early tempo play. You have the kill commands and the Hound Masters to do damage in the mid game and set it up for a kill. So, doesn't really seem anything too special with the Hunter deck, honestly.
Yeah, I like keeping this Inferior Protector in the Handlock hand. As much as you're looking for Mountain Giants, I think just playing it on turn 2 is already strong. Because it fights the 1 and 2 cost minions from Hunter really well. And if you don't want to do that, you can always save it for later and it gives stunt. So it's a pretty versatile card that I would like keeping, but you just looking for more Molten Giants, I guess.
Oof. Yeah, I guess so. Molten Giant is nice to have, I guess, but you still need Taunters. You still need something to do. But also what's disappointing for Fake is he does have Defender of Argus, which is a big pickup. One thing that you really need as well is a slow start from Hunter. And Neirea looked like he didn't really have much, but he's actually curved out pretty well. He's got turns 1 through 4 completely used, and he's putting out good pressure on the board. And this is already starting to pile in. Fake has to drop a big minion in Soulfire here.
Yeah. This board is pretty... not pretty, it is resilient to Soulfire. If you play it, you're still going to take 3. So, not in a great position. As would be expected, I guess. Fake is playing this lower Hunter version. He has high mains, and he does not have Leopard Gnomes or Undertakers, which I think makes it a little bit better for Warlock, because Warlock can fight the late game. But yeah.
Alright, well, this is the card that everyone resents the most if you're a Handlock player against Hunter. The Hunter's Mark
King
gets
Crush.
a King Crush. Awesome. I mean, that probably won't come into play, but I mean, it's nice to have another form of damage if you ever need it.
So doesn't attack with the spider here, is that correct? Or did I miss him attacking?
I'm looking at the match history bar, and I believe you're correct. I don't see the Spectral Spider's attack icon, so he held. So that way he doesn't give him another 4-mana giant.
Yeah. Which he would play. Probably. Well, maybe he even wouldn't because we'll just wait for a Shadow Flame turn. But yeah, ooh, Faceless here is a pretty strong play. As is just casting Sinjin.
Ooh, gosh, he's
Ooh,
losing. He's giant. I think he would have
Yeah.
been okay losing second Shadow Flame here.
Yeah, here he held the Faceless because he wanted to make sure he wouldn't lose the Molten Giant. And he knew that if he lost the Faceless, he would still have the Sinjin as a play. But now he lost his best chance to win this game, I think. Was that Molten Giant?
The Lotheb also does a lot here, because he would have been able to leave Lotheb in just one single minion there to try to push out through. So Fake's gonna have to play with Ascension Shieldmaster, but it's at the mercy of what Neirea does next, which looks like to be a Savannah High main. And the punishment continues, because this is about Handlock's survival, but Hunter's sitting at 30 health and just kind of putting Fake in a full Nelson here.
Yeah, definitely. And you said that Fake, chose to use his zero power last turn. So as much as you're concerned about your life total, he doesn't think he can win with the cards he has in hand. And I agree with him. They don't look like they're enough. Does get to clear the board here and pop the two Savannah Hymen, so not exactly clear, but gets rid of
Not
the low
really.
pad and
Yeah. Ugh, well, Neirea has 9 damage right now. Second Savannah High main. I can get behind that. Looks like
Yeah.
we're not going to see King Crush unless Fake draws a big swinger here.
So if he plays Molten Giant plus Siphon So he goes to 13. Yeah, he's not gonna die now. Oh, he is gonna die now.
I
there's
believe
the
let's
bow,
see, he's
yeah.
got 8 plus
Yeah,
the
yeah.
5 from the Eaglehorn bow, so that's,
That's
right
definitely
game right
enough.
here. A little sad because I wanted to see a King Crush, but if you want to see a King Crush finish, go ahead and watch the OGN Masters. That happened earlier today, if anybody who watched. Artosis and Doa was casting that. All right, well, Hunter versus Handlock was pretty one-sided. I think it's very indicative just by the health. Just no pressure whatsoever on the Handlock side, as it just was succumbed completely to the non-stop damage from this class. Now, Fake lost his best deck against Hunter. He used his Shaman very effectively, and he kind of incurred this wrath upon himself, PV. He didn't ban Hunter, he banned Paladin. So he was
Yeah.
confident going up against this. And maybe it'll pay off, but until it does, it's one of those questionable calls that I can always win. Let's go into game 4 and see if Fake can even this out and still match point for point, or will Neirea pull ahead here and see if he's able to win 2 games with the Hunter. Now, Neirea opens up with a little bit of a slow start, but I guess Tracker can start short things up. What are some of the key cards here for the Hunter against the Priest in your point of view?
It really depends on your early game. Bow is a pretty important card against some other draws, but just nothing against some others. And I think you really want an early pressure. Like Animal Companion is a very huge card, especially if you get a 4/4, because that's so hard for them to remove. And it matches up really well against all their creatures. So I would say that's probably the card I want to do most in my opening hand against Priest. But, then we got to the late game stages, and Seven High Main is great, and Buzzer Unleashed combo is great. So it really depends on the situation.
Yeah, I can get behind that. Fake, by the way, has an interesting couple choices, whether he wants to use Loot Hoarder and then Dark Cultist, save the coin so he can use it for Power Word Shield, maybe the next turn if he needs to.
Ooh, I'd go for Dark Cultist here.
Alright.
Yeah, I'd definitely go for Dark Cultist because it's the play that matches up the best against Animal Companion, giving you a, even a 4/2.
All right, another choice. He can, instead of coining out the Loot Hoarder as his backup option, he gets Zombie Chow.
Yeah, but now he's gonna lose his Undertaker to the ball, and well, that would happen regardless. But he basically wasted a power word shield. He got Ooh. It was the Zombie Chow and not the Undertaker. Oh, why is that trap? Okay,
Because it was a freezing trap. So rather than sending the Zombie Chow back, he'd rather send this Undertaker back. And Fake should realize this, which means if he plays Dark Cultist, most likely he's going to pass. Unless he's okay with just giving another bow charge to his opponent. I guess he is. Alright.
Yeah. You know, bow still doesn't kill Dark Cultist. And he doesn't have a beast. So if he wants to kill Commander, he has to also attack with the bow, which is a huge, you know, life tempo and card loss for him.
Yeah, it is a good point that you bring up, because if Dark Cultist was put out earlier, he could have gotten attacks in by now. And then all of a sudden, you would have lost your Undertaker, though. And Undertaker at 3 mana, when you're kind of losing a lot of... you don't have the opportunity to use that mana. Does represent lost damage over time, I guess.
But the only reason he didn't lose the Undertaker was because Neirea chose not to kill it. You know, the play he made could still lead to losing Undertaker.
I wonder.
And he would have used his coin anyway, except he drew the zombie chow. So, yeah, definitely like Cultist more, but this is not working out badly for him. You know, he still has the better board and arguably a better hand.
I think so. When you have like Holy Nova, that's really important against a lot of the weak health minions. And even against Savannah Highmane, if you have Shadow Word Death and then Holy Nova as the game progresses, that's also a really important combination to disarm the Hunter.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, if he plays Dark Cultist here, he will get to the awesome double Dark Cultist combo, which, you know, guarantees that you're going to get its ability to work.
Stand ready.
And you're gonna
Yeah,
get a
assuming there's
3/7
no
Dark
Iron Beak
Cultist.
Owl that your opponent has.
Mind if I roll need?
So he decides to kill the Spider to prevent Houndmaster from happening, which does expose his 3/3 to a bow attack, but again, that will leave him with a 3/7. The Hunter's Mark could be kind of devastating here. 'Cause
Right,
could
you
just-
would you attack this, wait to see what gets buffed, and you Hunter's Mark it.
Yeah, no, or you just attack the 2-1 first. You know, you kill the Loot Hoarder, then you kill the Dark Cultist with the bow, and then you Hunter's Mark away the 3/7 Dark Cultist, and there are no more creatures to receive the bonus.
Well, it's fortunately for Fake, it buffs the Dark Cultist instead of the Loot Hoarder, because then he would have traded the 2 minions anyways.
Yeah, and now, you know, picks up Sledge Boucher, a really good card, but Neirea is gonna start dropping, you know, very powerful creatures. And he doesn't have a way to immediately answer this Leok unless he plays that Holy Nova.
Is he gonna really use his Holy Nova? Alright.
Yeah,
I
I
guess
guess
really
so.
prioritize just killing off the board of the Hunter, which I can always get behind. But then this Highmane becomes super powerful.
Yeah, I mean, Leok is very threatening if your opponent has Unleash. I mean, but at this point, he would only get 2 minions, so I think just playing the Sledge Boucher would probably have been okay, and saving the Holy Nova for next turn. But yeah, this also works, and now Neirea is gonna play Savannah Highmane.
Actually, yeah, I forgot that the Alkanai Soul Priest actually can answer the Highmane, kind of. So it's still looking as a pretty good situation for Fake. He's also not passing.
Yeah.
So I think maybe he has like, some connection issues. I hope that's not the case. Okay, everything seems to be sorted out.
Yeah, very fast turn for Neirea.
Yep. Easiest turn yet. I would assume this is an opportunity to kill the Highmane, but Fake's also chosen a couple different paths. If he wants to be really defensive and set up like Undertaker with Sludge Belcher and push, but then you start building up like a board for your opponent to start unleashing.
Yeah. You know, he doesn't have a great way to... You know, if he kills the Savannah Highmane, he's gonna lose both his creatures to his Death Rattle ability.
Yeah, that's true.
Bring out your dead.
So, which is not a position he wants to be in, I think. So I think this play is better here. Even though he's basically, you know, thrown his Ledge Boucher to, you know, sacrifice a Lamb or something. That's...
Alright, well, the kill command was a pretty important draw for Neirea, as now he's able to pretty effectively push for damage and make your opponent have Shadow Word Death, or else basically he has to sacrifice everything he has.
Yeah, well, interesting here. You know, chooses just not to kill the Dark Cultist. At this point, just doesn't care. And he has that Leroy in his hand, so he has access to a lot of damage.
That's right.
You know, he could kill his opponent the very next turn, depending on how this turn goes. He has lethal.
His turns have been so quick, and Fake takes quite the time to think. It's just like Fake goes down to the rope, and Neirea just like instant calls.
Yeah. Though, to be fair, it's much easier on Neirea's side. You know, he had a powerful 6-mana minion, dropped in turn 6.
Right.
And, you know, had a turn 4 play, drew the 3-mana card, so, oh, I can play both.
And he's got situational cards as an alternatives, like Buzzard's just being held, so yeah, you're absolutely right. Okay, so he's got 8 plus the 8 in hand.
Yeah, he's
so
too short.
Neirea's 2 damage off from being able to finish it.
But his opponent cannot even heal himself.
Also true.
So if he just goes for it... You know, he could play Leroy now to stop a taunt from happening. That would not be the worst play ever. Yeah, because he knows his opponent can't heal himself. So.
Yeah, the Dark Cultist buff is actually working against what Fake does. He needs to draw a circle of healing and then kill the Akonai and heal back up. This is a tough situation. He's gonna Thought Steal. He gets double Web Spinner. This is not the Hunter Clash challenge. Thought Stealing totally trolling. Fake is going to concede this game, and Neirea with a pretty good series of plays, making sure that Priest couldn't take advantage of their own Death Rattle effects. As now he's up 3-1 and 1 game away from advancing to the finals. And once again, it's coming down to Fake choosing not to ban the Hunter, not working out for him just yet, but he can still turn things around. Let's go into the next game immediately and see if Fake can turn this around.
Yeah, this should be a good matchup for Fake, I think. You know, it's the Ramtrade deck has a lot of very powerful taunt minions that are not easy to get through. There are only 2 Hunter's marks. Neirea has an interesting combination of cards, you know. He's got pretty much every point of the game covered.
He doesn't know if this is an aggressive Druid, though. I mean, it's still kind of been 50-50 on his end, right? He's seen people who's played aggressive, like Savitz. He's also seen other ramps in his group. So now it's like he's not really completely sure. But when he sees his opponent is playing a more of a ramp Druid, then he can kind of start evaluating and saving his Buzzard Unleashed. So I think keeping it in the case of the aggressive Druid, I think it's fine.
Oh no, I like it. Yeah, I didn't mean. I'm sorry if I sounded like I was saying it was bad.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I'm saying that, you know, his hand is pretty good because he got, you know, early and late game covered already. So.
Does Fake want to remove this with Swipe, or does he want to innervate out Sunwalker? Because if he innervates Sunwalker, then he'll be vulnerable to Kill Command.
Yeah, I like Swipe here a lot more.
Ooh, King Mukla on an empty board. Oh, man. That's pretty bad. That's almost a dream web spinner off of this scenario. Although,
yeah, he could kill with the big game hunter.
Yeah, that's actually the best response too. The best response for a King Mukla on an empty board is a BGH plus double bananas.
I'll be very disappointed if you don't see a sorry from Fake here if he does that though.
Yeah, he missed an opportunity here. But I guess you could use that on high main as well.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
Or just, you know, pump your Sledge Belcher.
That's true. Make it a 5/7. Oh, PV, you got me so excited for an opportunity of BM back, but Fake is too nice of a guy.
Oh, okay, why does he keep here? You know, cards that speak to a very different game plan, so he has to decide what his game plan is going to be. Does he think he wants to win the board, or does he think he want to win the life battle? And chooses the board battle, which I agree with at this point.
Yeah, with so many taunters in the deck, it's unlikely Leroy will be able to get off, versus having the Houndmaster to build the board for the inevitable big threat battle, I think is a stronger overall decision that'll have more opening in plays as opposed to Leroy.
Yeah, and not playing that BJH is now really costing Fake, because every turn he plays a guy and his opponent reacts, he's taking 5 damage. So whereas if the board was, you know, his, do you think he just missed that play?
Oh, you mean he didn't see it?
Yeah.
It is a possibility, but
now
at
he
the
can't
same
even
time,
do
I
it
feel like
anymore.
he respects the high main a lot. So,
Yeah, but imagine, a lot of things can go wrong with this line of playing.
right,
But now
that's
he
true.
gets the opportunity to be jaded.
Yeah, but then
And
your
I'm
opponent
sure.
high mains, and then it's like if he's been saving for it, then his opponent, like he's been waiting for it the entire time. He has an alternative way to remove it. But I guess BGH does come out here. It's just too much damage.
Yeah. Okay, chooses Ledge Boucher plus Zombie Chow over Sunwalker, which is definitely fine. Since the Ledge Boucher survives the Houndmaster attack.
I mean, it's fine, but you also open yourself to Buzzard Unleash as opposed to playing just Sunwalker. I mean, I guess playing a minion opens yourself up more, but now you give him an extra card, which can be very valuable. So let's see what Neirea draws off. He still has yet to pick up something like his Hunter's Mark. He's got two of his less useful cards in the Explosive Trap, but looks like he will be able to take apart this Sludge Belcher now.
Yeah, man. That was maybe an argument for playing, just Sunwalker over the two creatures, but I guess he's not overly concerned about the Berserk combo at this point. Maybe he's even happy to get it out of the way. So now he's behind on cards, but he regains the board control. Probably thinking whether he wants to send Zombie Chow or himself at the Buzzard.
Alright, well, again, very safe and trying to build the board. I think now that you saw Unleash, you're more likely to just go for
Yeah,
more
definitely.
minion-centric. Protect as much health on your minions as possible.
Yeah, I think so too. Especially since it wouldn't actually kill the Zombie Chow, so all you do is actually exposing it to unleash even more. So I really like 20 is a lot of life you can throw yourself at that.
Alright, well, Fake picks up the Keeper of the Grove, which will be important to preserve in his hand when the inevitable high main comes out. You want to silence that creature as soon as possible and kill off its death rattle effect of 2/2 hyenas.
Yeah. Do you like bananing your big game hunter here and then attacking with Zombie Chow to get rid of any traps? And you guaranteed you can kill Sledge Belcher?
Justice shall prevail.
Well, I think he was also testing to see if this was Snake Trap or... Oh, man. He should have really tested it first. Oh, man, the sequencing actually kind of betrayed him here. But yeah, I think he could have gotten much better traction, or much better value off of his Divine Shield. I think you're right. Like, I think if you tested for it first... But then, it's kind of like a catch-22, right? Because if you test first, you don't get the optimal value off of it.
Yeah, but if you use your banana to make your big game hunter a 5/3, then you can attack him with Zombie Chow and it will trigger whichever trap it is. And the big game hunter is always going to trade with load that. This is going to
Yeah.
survive explosive trap. So you're going to keep.
Oh no, I'm
yourself
behind you
Sunwalker.
100%. I'm just thinking that like the situation here is like ends up being a lot worse than it could have been. He's gonna be really aggressive, realizing that he has swipe and banana, and those are just damage spells here, or ways to kind of buff and trade a little bit, and try to go. He's not gonna even save his Keeper of the Grove anymore because the opponent doesn't have the board.
Yeah, and this is always a weird time with Hunter because you're so used to being the aggressive person that sometimes you don't even watch your life total. You're like, oh, actually, I'm kind of dying here. I have to react. Neirea has no board.
Yeah, and there's a situation where he can use Zombie Chow as a way to stay alive. So if his opponent wants to attack into it, he can use Explosive Trap to set himself up defensively, and then most likely use Kill Command and Eaglehorn Bow to a certain extent to gain to regain life. So I think he's still in an okay spot. This is where Zombie Chow ends up betraying the Ramp Druid, despite it being tech to help the matchup against Hunter.
Yeah, definitely. Would really prefer having Argent Squire in this particular spot. But I do think Zombie Chow is a much better card. Yeah, so telegraphing that explosive trap, but there isn't much Fake can do about it. He could draw a Nation of Lore and heal his Druid of the Claw to get past that.
Oh man, that would be pretty cool. Oh no, he picks up Harvest Golem. That's pretty bad. And Banana doesn't help him put outside of explosive range either. Now, of course, the way that Hunter telegraphed this looks like it's explosive trap. Of course, in Fake's mind, he's always wondering about the possibility of freezing trap.
Yeah, dude, that attack on the 4-4, I think, that would be a very, very bold play if that was not an explosive trap.
Right, it's just a bluff, essentially. That's what it is.
Attacking his opponent's hero power.
All right, well, the explosive trap will end up gaining some life for the Hunter. And Fake, pretty upset with that situation because his press for damage has been whittled down significantly.
Yeah, and his opponent does get outer charge on that Eagle Horn bow. So suddenly he is the person who has to watch their life total.
Time waits for no one.
Do you use the banana to get 2 damage in? 1 on the attack and 1 off the trade with the weapon, maybe?
I mean, you're only getting 1 more damage over using it, and I think it's fine to use it. At this point, you're kind of happy if your opponent attacks your 3-3 and not yourself, because it means you're not immediately dead. Which has to be his concern. Neirea has 4 cards in hand.
Oh my, Misha is a pretty big draw.
Look at this turn.
Yeah, he needs some damage right here to end the game, but he doesn't get it. And
that would be
Ancient
a
of
good
War
card.
is a line of defense, but there's many ways for Hunter to push through.
Yeah, he really wanted something that cost 6 or less here, so he could play Swipe and that. Now, if he sets up his defenses, he's not going to be able to attack.
But you have to. There's a high main on the field.
Yeah, he definitely had to.
All right, pray no Hunter's Mark from your opponent.
Yeah. Even if they do Hunter's Market, you're still not bad. They have the choice of either attacking with the bow and taking 5, or just getting rid of, wasting their Misha. Yeah, Neirea just very nonchalantly just attacks the 5-10 and gets rid of it.
Yeah, just play the rest of your hand. This is where, I guess, Eaglehorn both sat dead for a while he was getting some charges, but in this scenario, it's perfectly fine, because he can push out damage. And is back over to Fake, who has only 4 damage. His Harvest Golem will not attack. Keeper of the Grove is not lethal.
No. Yeah, he could just Keeper the Spider and, try to regain some of the board control here. Keeper the Spider, swipe one hyena, and attack the other hyena with his hero power.
Yes,
But
there is a board
Fake
clear.
is gonna get... Yeah. Neirea is gonna get a beast, so... I hope it's King Crush.
Me too, buddy. Me too. Although, I don't know, 2 games in a row would be kind of optimistic.
Yeah, so lucky 2 King Crushes in a row.
And you know what? Fake might not attack with this keeper, with this Harvest
Ooh,
Golem. Oh
that's
my god, Neirea gets another high main.
Is the next best thing.
Yeah, if it's not gonna be King Crush, you might as well just get one of the best cards in the game.
Queen Crush.
Wow, and he even has the ability to draw off of it with Starving Buzzard. And he gets Unleash the Hounds. So there's a lot of ways for him to have finishing damage if this doesn't work out in his favor. Now, Fake wisely held so that way he can get this Keeper of the Grove back off of the freezing trap. And he has Force of Nature! That's actually game right here. And he's able to actually have this pay off. Fake, I was going to say even up the series, I'm so caught off guard, but he's going to be still down 2-3. But overall, that was the top deck he needed to win the game.
Yeah, and he escapes, the fact that he would get laughed at a lot if he had a Ben Hunter and just lost with all his decks to it. So...
Wow, what
moral
a
victory
tense
for
moment
him
for
here.
Fake. That was elimination moment. That was an elimination game where if he lost, that's it for his semifinals run. But he's alive, and he's finally taken down the Hunt. It's game plan. Let them draw cards, but try to see if you have any opening to pressure. Not to mention, he still has Force of Nature Savage Roar, so there is always that possibility of bursting. And of course, Neirea sees that, so he knows what to expect and play around.
Yeah, so... No, we see the wild growth here again, so it's not only Neirea's prerogative to have it every game when he's playing Ramp Druid. So does he coin wild growth here? I lean towards no, because he has no turn... Well, he has that big game hunter as a turn 3 play. So maybe he wants to do that. Yeah, just play a naked B game hunter here. Seems like the best he can do.
Yeah, there's not really... The thing is, like, every time I see a B-Game Hunter played early, then it's always like, you should never be upset you lose to Van Cleef. Because that's always like one thing that... It's one of the limiter removals for Rogue. It's like, well, now he played BGH, so that's actually one thing I don't have to worry about. So if, if I don't draw Gadgets in, I have to all-in on Van Cleef, you're so much more likely to do it.
Yeah, you do have Keeper, though, to get rid of it in his hand, so I think his... Well, you don't have Keeper anymore.
Wow,
Yeah,
Keeper
but
to the face.
I like that, actually. You know, he has 2 Druid of the Claw, so he can apply a lot of pressure. I really like that play from Fake. I think it's pretty good. Yeah, but how likely is Van Cleef, you know, 8-8 or bigger? Sometimes it's just a 6-6 and you still lose to it. Or, you know, it's very big and it gets concealed and you can't BGH anyway. So I think applying pressure and forcing your opponent to react and get a bit out of his comfort zone, maybe, is the best course of action.
Yeah, I can understand your point, and to a certain extent agree with it as well. Alright, so he's gonna go for the taunt mode, so that way it's more resilient against stuff like Eviscerate. And Neirea's coming up on turns where he can start drawing a lot. Still doesn't have like a clean way to keep this guy stand alive though with Conceal. Does he have an alternative play here?
So many. I got the best deals anywhere.
Alright, well, Gadget's in. Most likely Sap comes out afterwards.
Yeah, this is
his
not...
Conceal's 1 card off.
Yeah. This is not a great spot for him because he knows, you know, Druid of the Claw can just... Oh, wait. Oh, I didn't know it was locked into being a Druid of the Claw. Okay.
Yep. But he has Wrath. And he also has
yeah.
Druid. Right, so...
Yeah, definitely playing Wrath here. Wrath and Taskmaster. That's an interesting interaction. Does that also happen with Ancient of War?
Yes. It's whatever mode that you chose it in.
Okay. But not if you silence, right? If I silence Druid of the Claw, is it still a 4/6? Or... Oh, this interaction doesn't work the same way with both
No,
players.
I believe it's a 5/5. Actually, it's a really interesting question. Like, if you silence and then sap it, which would be a very weird combination of plays.
Oh no, I meant if you silence the Druid of the Claw, does it become a 4/4 or a 4/6?
Oh, if you silence the Druid of the Claw in bear mode, it's a 4/6. It just loses its taunt.
Yeah, but the Ancient of War is a 5/5, right? So
Right, because it's a buff.
Yeah.
Yeah, just for clarity, it's important to know, like for your own sanity when you're trying to make these plays and calculations with combat man.
Yeah. So here, you know, attacks the face makes sense. His opponent has to attack into his guy anyway. And what are we gonna see from Neirea? He does have. He could just eviscerate and attack that 4/6 after playing Thalanos because his dagger.
So many.
And basically clear the board.
Yeah, he's also can use the spell power on the Shiv to try. It's just about making sure you can do it efficiently and take the least amount of damage. I believe the play is Eviscerate and use Shiv, but you can Shiv first to see what you draw. Alright.
Yeah, shooting first really
Deadly
smart.
Poison Bush.
Yeah, you could. You do lose your Deadly Poison charge because your weapon is at only 1. But that's probably better than losing your 3/3 that's in play.
Yeah, because then you gain back the damage effectively to the minion, assuming he doesn't have Swipe. So the damage lost is a little bit sad. And you don't even have Blade Flurry, so there's no guarantee of like saving it for any kind of AoE clear.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, just keeping the consistent sort of damage there. It seems like it's more important.
Alright, now Neirea needs Gaijin number 2. He has 15 cards remaining. A little bit unlikely, but if he does get it, it'll be a big moment.
Is this to leave that Thanos alive? Interesting. You know, most people just kill it on sight, but I guess he sees that Neirea has already played a lot of his damage spells. You know, bit of lives and stuff like that. So he feels free to play Harvest Golem instead of hero powering the Thanos away.
So many.
Oh man, is he gonna go for Leroy Conceal? Because he feels like this is his best chance to win. Eviscerate and Thanos could push through, and then hopefully his opponent doesn't have any kind of way to taunt up.
Time's
Yeah.
up. Let's do this.
You know, you should probably have attacked with the Thomas before, but just to make sure that's what you actually want to do. But yeah, interesting play here.
He'd lose his spell power if he ended up trading his Stalnos in, so that needed to be very specific.
Oh, sure, you're right. Ooh, there are three possible plays here from Fake now. Do you want to go for more small taunts or one big taunt? You know, do you try to play around, you know, a mass clear or a sap?
Oh man. He already showed one sap, but it's just as likely as one Blade Flurry. I think it's really just a 50-50 roll at this point.
Or you could play Ancient of Lore.
I wonder.
But then you
What
die to
you
Shadow
lose to.
Step.
Shadow Step, yeah.
And its Shadow Step is much more likely than what the remaining sap or a Blade Flurry or Fan of Knives into like Blade Flurry.
Who dares?
Yeah, you also have to think which card gives you a better chance to win if you don't die immediately.
Ugh, but Shadow Step, I believe, is the winning card. Azure Drake? See, Azure Drake plus a prep into Shiv. Oh my god, he got Blade Flurry.
Okay.
That's it. He's able to just preparation and Blade Flurry, and he can clear the board and push in for the win. And Neirea's going to the grand finals.
Alright.
Pretty sick. Wow, that was a... Can't believe those sequence of draws exactly happened the way he needed to. Just the fact that it lined up perfectly with... Well, Scenarios is weak.